This is a Wild Age Production podcast.
Welcome to the D&D world.
Meet you by the art room door, in a circle on the hallway floor. I made up a new map last night. It's got a dragon and a wizard fight.
Probably just for Carl. Carl, guess what I got in the mail today?
I have no idea what you got in the mail today.
Got the print-on-demand copies of Gaz 1 and Gaz 7.
Okay.
I don't know why I bought those ones. Well, I bought Gaz 1 specifically. I bought them all for my home game, but, super excited. I haven't gotten a chance to read them yet, though, because I've been cooking for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, Gaz 7's coming up. We're going to talk about it very soon.
That's why I got that one. And also, my current game is set in Karamikos, so I sort of, killed two birds with one stone. This episode is not an episode about the Gazetteers. Nailed it.
Yeah, I was wondering how you're going to back your way out of that one.
Anyways, welcome to the Save or Die Podcast, a podcast about classic Dungeons and Dragons. I'm one of your hosts, Crispy.
I'm Carl.
And I'm one of your hosts, Courtney.
And it's been kind of a trend lately, but we have another special guest on this episode.
Hi, I'm Jenny Holm.
Woo, yay! Very excited.
Yes, we like special guests.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Carl or Courtney or Jenny, yourself, do you guys want to talk about why we're having Jenny on the show today?
Well, sure. I'll talk a little bit about this. Jenny Holm is an author. I don't know if I'm supposed to say an award-winning author. I know you have won awards. I don't know if that's a cool thing to say or not, or if you're just just call me an author. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, I mean, I know it's cool, but I don't know if you want to be I don't know. I don't know what level of grandiosity.
Jenny, didn't you win a Newberry?
I did.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Put that on the license plate. You kidding me?
My parents were very happy.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're real good children's book company.
And she writes lots of books, but the one that I know her for is called Sunny Rolls the Dice. And this is a book in a series about a young girl named Sunny living in the 70s. And in Sunny Rolls the Dice, she discovers Dungeons and Dragons. And it was fantastic to read.
Yep, I'm just kind of taking a walk down memory lane.
I didn't get to read the book, but Carl read it to me last night before bed.
I video chatted him, and I aimed my cell phone camera at the book, and I read him Sunny Rolls the Dice via video chat.
Crispy, were you all tucked into bed?
I was. He Venmo'd me exactly the amount of money I would need for a steamed milk from Starbucks.
So sweet.
Aw.
Yeah, it was a great story. I loved
Thank
it.
you.
I related with it.
At our house, we checked it out from the library, and it has been read many a times, including the kids picking out characters and reading their parts in the book. So our kids are 10 and 7, and they love Sunny Rolls the Dice.
You are raising those kids right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, our son Connor reads for Brian usually, and our daughter Emily usually reads for Sunny, and I'll read everything else.
Yeah, so Carl, I know when you first introduced the book to me, when you were first telling me about it, which was a couple months ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
There were some very key things that you thought were as pedantic Dungeons and Dragons nerds who make a pedantic Dungeons and Dragons nerd show on the internet, a couple of key things that really stuck out to you about some of the details in Sunny Rolls the Dice. Do you want to talk about those real quick?
Yeah. The thing about this book is, one, it's just a nice story about a girl that discovers something she loves and decides to follow her passions over the fear of those passions defining who she is. But for people like me and Crispy, who devour D&D history and just kind of love seeing D&D history represented, it's a beautiful snapshot of getting into D&D early on, because it's so often we see D&D represented almost like this disingenuous, might be the word I'm looking for, of just like these people don't actually know anything about what they're talking about. This doesn't feel like D&D. This book feels like D&D. Like this is like definitely D&D. Like there's definitely no mistaking. Like this is based on real experience.
Yeah, I mean, so I was born in '68, so when D&D came, and I'm one of 5 kids, and I am the only girl. I have 4 brothers, and I was the middle child. So I grew up. Yeah, I survived. Yeah, but my parents pretty much, let me do whatever I want. Back then I was kind of a tomboy. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and we played a lot outside in the woods behind our house. And the big thing that was kind of happening in the 70s was that, people had quite big families then, at least where I was growing up. I mean, 5 kids wasn't as untypical as it might be seen today. And so parents were getting the good idea, at least on the East Coast, to do what's called finishing their basement. And like our block, I lived in a suburban block, like with the cul-de-sac, and kind of over a year or two, just about every parent with more than 3 or 4 kids finished their basement. And it became this, playroom for kids to hang out downstairs. And, the little kids would play with their Legos and blocks and train sets, but eventually became this cozy place where we would play D&D. And I think what was also a little bit unusual about my upbringing, I mean, so I had all these brothers, but also on my block that I grew up on, it was almost majority boys. There was one other girl on the street. And so most of the games were sort of, introduced by the boys. And so we were there. I had 2 older brothers, so we were right there at the very beginning of the D&D experience. We had, we still have it, the box set, the monster manual. Actually, they're at my brother Matt's house at the moment. They kind of rotate around the family. And it was really kind of it was a bit of a winter sport for us, I would say, because we have 4 or 5 pictures of, I guess my mom must have snuck down in the basement and took pictures of us playing D&D in this wood paneled basement. They're really funny with the neighborhood boys. And we're all always wearing sweaters. So in the summer, we'd be outside from, 9 until dinner time, completely unlike how my own children are growing up. And in the winters, we would just live in the basements the same way we would, our parents would not check to make sure that we're hungry. We would have enough sense to come up and beg for food. It's just such a different parenting style. And my daughter, the 13-year-old, says, it sounds like it was so much fun. But it wasn't.
I had a very similar upbringing, like even just 20, so I'm very young.
Babby.
But my grandparents had a finished basement. That's where the kids' room was, and so me and all of my cousins, the 4 of us, did you have the dropped ceiling where there was the floor for the upstairs room? There was a gap between the roof of the finished basement.
Yes, we did, and we had those faux. They kind of look almost like styrofoam ceiling, and then
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then there was lights embedded in them.
Yeah, like fluorescent lights, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I know exactly what your basement looked like because I also had that basement.
Y'all cousins. Y'all are cousins, aren't you?
Maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I related so much to Sunny because just the part where she's trying to explain Dungeons and Dragons to her grandfather in the book really resonated with me. Well, I remember when I first learned how to play D&D and then went home and told all of my friends about D&D and, like, trying to half remember the rules that were told to me and then having to, like, make an amalgam of it. It was just very relatable.
Yeah, I think so. I think at the beginning, that's what I remember most was that it was almost like a make your own adventure in a way, because there wasn't. I mean, we did get the handbook eventually, and some child got it. It wasn't me, but it was pretty loose at the beginning. You could only be a couple of classes. I think it's much more complicated now, and I think it was also kind of it was a transfer of like what kids were doing in real life into the basement in a weird way. So we would play in the woods as young kids and kind of play adventure games. I mean, we spent our summers building tree houses. Our parents had no idea what we were doing, and we had all these imaginary adventures. And then what D&D like did so well was take those kind of storytelling abilities that kids have, and they gave us some rules to live in a world.
Yeah, it's like a focusing lens, because I did the same kind of thing where, like, so I'm from the other side of Pennsylvania, but like playing in the woods and like riding bikes and just like there was no such thing as other people's property. Like every yard in the neighborhood was fair game.
Exactly.
And we would always go in the woods and like build. We called them forts or hideouts, but
we called them forts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get what you're putting down.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of it was very exciting. I mean, because it was definitely also an era of a lot of game playing. Like it was kind of the Parker Brothers era of all those games. Like my older brothers played Risk. We all played Monopoly. I mean, we had a closet full of board games. But this was, a game that you used your imagination, and it was just kind of a revelation, really.
Well, we have some questions for you prepared, but before we get to that, I want to mention a couple of things about the art that I just really think that really details the D&D experience in a very neat way that I've not seen ever done before, in that you can kind of see the level of immersion that the players are in at the table, because at first you'll see them and they'll be sitting around the table in like their clothes in the 1970s and they're just sitting at the table, and then you'll eventually start seeing them just slowly morph into their character still at the table, and then on the next page suddenly they're in the dungeon with all of the art showing the D&D world. And that was such a cool device to show the level of like the real world kind of fading in the background as you start getting really into your game. And I just really loved that.
Oh, thank you. That's my brother, Matt. So out of all those brothers, my youngest brother turned out to be an incredible artist. And so, you do what you do in families is you make someone work for free at the beginning, of course. But now, these many years later, it's a family business. But yeah, so he was kind of on the younger end because he's 6 years younger than me. So he didn't experience what I experienced, but he did play it with his buddies when he kind of came up.
Well, that's a perfect lead into our first question. Courtney, why don't you ask that?
Okay. How close is Sunny's introduction to D&D to your own, and can you tell us about your introduction to D&D?
I think it's pretty close. I'm trying to remember. So I don't know who brought the D&D into the house. Well, I don't know. Or it could have been a neighbor boy, because it was, like you say, we just ran into each other's houses. I mean, but what was accurate, I remember, is at the local mall. So we lived by the King of Prussia Mall, which was a small mall then. Now it's like huge. And there was a local hobby store that carried all the games at the time. So they had D&D, but they had all the little characters, and they had some comics. So that was like always like a cool place to go and stare in the window of and save your money to spend at. I'm sure it was one of my brothers that introduced me to it, though. Probably one of the younger ones, the one that's 2 years younger than me. So,
like Carl had said earlier, like we're big pedantic nerds, and it's really refreshing to see something authentic. My least favorite thing in like media is when people are playing like a D&D analog and they do all these things incorrectly, like stuff that doesn't make any sense, that's just like gobbledygook that kind of sounds like it would be a real role-playing game term. Like one of the details that we both loved was when everyone was picking their classes and the cleric wanted to be a dwarf cleric.
Yeah.
And the DM was like, no, you can't be a dwarf cleric. The book says you have to be human. Like, just those little tiny details that are just the real rules, because people who don't know the rules of D&D, if you tell them a fake rule and a real rule, both of them will sound equally plausible.
Yeah.
So, like, why not just use the real one, you know? But I wanted to know how important it was to you to remain faithful when recreating images from, like, the old school D&D products, because there's a lot of stuff that when he was showing me the pictures on webcam as he was reading me a bedtime story, I was like, is that, like, Monsters and Treasures assortment 1 through 3?
Yeah, so the reason Matt has all the boxes now, because the book just came out in the fall, and so he replicated the original box. We had the original set, and he had the monster manual, so it's pretty close. You know, it's a nod to it. Of course, it's not exact, but pretty faithful, I think.
Yeah, what was like the inspiration for you guys? Like, you could have so easily just made some junk up, but he really took the time to recreate those images.
Yeah, so that's sort of part of both my background a bit. So when I first started writing books for kids, and basically kind of one side of my writing life is I write historical fiction for children, middle grade historical fiction, and that is just a rabbit hole of having to be factually accurate. And so this is the third Sunny book in the series, and they all take place in the 70s, which ironically is now historical fiction. My childhood is historical fiction.
Yes.
So we have to be historically accurate. And so I'm always sending him images or my things or pictures of us as kids of, this is what I wore. You don't remember. It was this bad. It really was. We're definitely obsessed with that. And that's just from so many years of working in historical fiction.
It's really cool.
For our listeners, some of the things represented in the art is the so you may not know this, but that box set that was written by someone named John Eric Holmes, and it's considered the Holmes box set. Everybody calls it the Holmes. So yours is the Holmes box set. But so the Holmes box set is presented, and the dice are 0 through 9. The miniatures presented are all 1970s minifigs, and I think there's some early heritage. Like, you can see the designs and inspiration. And let me tell you, I got a lot of cool dad points because I was able to like go to my nerd room and pull out my miniature that looks just like the one that Sonny had. And like, look, I have the same miniature. And my daughter was like, "You're so cool."
I still have my miniatures, and I never painted mine. I was talking to somebody about, there was like a lot of people who painted theirs, but you had to be pretty, what 9-year-old can paint those? I don't know. I couldn't.
I'm 32 and I can't. I'm afraid to paint them.
No, even then I knew I didn't want to ruin them.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question. Sonny Rolls the Dice deals, I think, mostly it deals with like trying to fit in or trying to fit in while being true to yourself. What advice does the book have, or that you have, for young girls out there that may want to play something like Dungeons and Dragons or some other activity, afraid of what their peers may think? The message in Sunny's pretty clear. So do you have anything to say towards that?
Yeah, so, I lived it for sure. It's the middle school years are very complicated years where you have social pressure and hormones, and mostly you just want to fit in and not be noticed. I think most kids just want to kind of just skirt through it and survive. I remember distinctly thinking, wow, this is where it's all going to go wrong, because I grew up playing with all these boys, and all of a sudden it became not so cool to do that. The boys that you are playing with in the basement. They're going to be at a dance next week or maybe roller skating. But I think it's important to keep your interests and be true to your interests and to try to manage all of those pressures on yourself. It's definitely not easy. I think it's a little easier now. It seems like nerd culture is a bit sweeter now. But I think something like D&D is a really nice escape from reality. And I think especially now, kids could certainly use that.
I like how the story in Sunny Rolls the Dice kind of frames this. I feel like the yearning for popularity in it is framed as a yearning to like belong in a group, and it's a group at large that she's wanting to belong to, and then she eventually realizes that she can just play nerdy games with her friends and still belong in a group and still be just as happy as she would have been otherwise.
No, I think that's it exactly, and that's a really hard lesson. I think I ended up where that became a really good lesson for me in life was I kind of continued to listen to that voice in my head that said, it's okay to play D&D. And maybe because I grew up with all these boys, I saw that they could do whatever they wanted. So that by the time I got to high school, I didn't have a typical kind of high school career. You know, in the fall, I was in the marching band. In the winter, I was in debate club. And in the spring, I played lacrosse. So I kind of did all those different things and had friends in each of the groups. And that was really nice, you know, to have friends from different crowds.
The villain, if there is one, of the book is really Teen Vogue.
It is.
Yeah. I was like, where are you going to go with this? There's no villain. But yeah, no, there is. It's Teen Vogue.
It's Teen Vogue.
It's society's expectations of how you should behave. Absolutely. Those magazines back then were even more, you know, crazy than they are today.
I love the Gloria Vanderbilt jeans.
I know. I did have them. They were nice.
Did you also have 2 pairs?
We all wanted Gloria. It was kind of a running competition between Jordache and Gloria Vanderbilt in my school.
God, like even the boy side of that, like I was a kid in the 90s and I remember everyone wanted Jean Co jeans. I don't know, I think the themes of the book are so timeless and relatable.
Oh, thank you.
So Carl might can tell the story better because I'm not as good of a storyteller. But our kids, almost every time they read it, get angry about Sunny not being able to do what she wants, and how if they were her friend, they would tell her she can do whatever she wants and she doesn't have to buy the jeans. She can go buy what she wants and play D&D. And so they always get really like into it and like angry about it. And I want to be like, every single time they read it, I feel like it's the same reaction. Like they're not gonna it hasn't tapered off any.
Aw.
Groovy has become a bad word in our house. Like the Sunny's always concerned about her groovy meter in the book, and my kids now will just be like, "Just don't worry about being groovy."
As you were reading it to me last night, I was like, "No, Sunny, you've been groovy all along."
Well, that's so sweet. I love it.
So I'm desperate to know. Are you still playing Dungeons and Dragons? Do you play D&D today?
So sadly, I am not. My husband does play. He said he married me for my copy of the Monster Manual, which was in much better shape than his. My son had just started to play before all this coronavirus thing cropped up with some friends of his. But I did dig up my old character sheet, and I can tell you what I did play. So I was very also influenced by a series of books by Lloyd Alexander. He wrote the Black Cauldron.
Woo! Yeah.
The Chronicles of Prydain.
Yeah.
The Chronicles of Prydain. I love them. And
It's my favorite Disney movie.
It's the worst movie. Stop.
I love it, though.
It's not the best adaptation.
You are a good sport. But the author actually grew up in Pennsylvania, not far from where I lived. And but anyway, so all of my characters are based on or have their names. So I was my character's name was Ilanui. I was a magic user. I was a human, of course. I was a level 9, lawful good. Yeah. Armor class 7. Strength was 15, intelligence 18, wisdom 16, dexterity 17, constitution 16, and charisma 18. And I was looking through some of my items were pretty hilarious. I had a bring back the dead and miscellaneous magic, paralyze, fire resist, spells all over the place. I had like 20 spells. But then my animals, I had 4 songbirds.
Aw.
That's awesome.
And it's all in cursive. Is what it's more funny to me now, because the kids don't really learn cursive that much now.
That's how you know it's an artifact of the past.
It's so hilarious.
I wonder if you were decided to draw it in cursive because it looked more medieval.
I did, because as it goes down, it starts off in full cursive. In my magic spells, it's all in cursive. And then when I get sort of down to like other characters, it starts getting less cursive-y. But
You're like, I don't have time for this.
I know. But all of my faithfuls were like named after Chronicles of Prydain, so it was very sweet in retrospect.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we also really want to know. We wrote the questions, so we really wanted to know all of these. But will D&D ever be a feature in future Sunny books? Inquiring minds want to know.
It might. So I've just finished the script for the next Sunny book, and it's mentioned, but they don't play, and she's very sad. So it's okay to give a spoiler. The next book just takes place right after this, and it's over the summer, and everybody's away from town. Like everybody's gone on vacation, but Sunny, even her D&D buddies, and she's just like, oh, so sad and bored because nobody's around to hang out with. So it's a little sad.
Well, I have some other questions for you. Like we said, our kids are huge fans of Sunny Rolls the Dice, and they're very jealous that we're getting to talk to you. Unfortunately, they're asleep, but I did have them record some questions for you earlier. So
Awesome.
I'm going to share those with you now.
Hello, my name is Emily, and my question is, what's your favorite moment playing / running D&D?
So I was never the dungeon master. That's like my husband in spades. He actually grew up to become a video game designer. So this game served him well because he likes telling people what to do and tell them what to do in games. I just liked being with other people in this imaginary world, and it really felt like you were there sometimes. Like time just stood still in a way that's hard to describe. And I don't know, especially when you're young, the ability to just put the outside world on hold was such an amazing thing. I feel like now you have to just block yourself in a room to not be aware of the internet or something. But I just love to just be hanging out with my friends and playing it.
Awesome. And then I have a question from Connor.
Hello, my name is Connor, and my question is, what was your favorite D&D character?
What was my favorite D&D character? You mean to play or like a monster?
Ooh, either would be a fine answer.
Well, my favorite, monster was, of course, the gelatinous cube, which was basically what I imagined my mother was as she went through our bedrooms and picked up our stuff and threw them into a bag. And then just add some Jell-O, and that was a gelatinous cube in my imagination then. And now for me, as I go through my children's rooms, I could have read the Monster Manual book forever. I used to read it before bed. It was very comforting for some reason. But I loved it. Yeah. So I'd take a monster any day.
What about your favorite character that you ever played?
So I just played mostly myself. So I was just always a magic user. The way we played is that we just picked one character and we played it for a couple years. We didn't switch it up. So I was just the one person the whole time.
Did you do the thing like if your character died, did you just play the same class with the same stats?
Yes, we just
different name.
No, we would just come back with the same name. we weren't that clever. We were
This is Elanwi the second.
Yes, we would just come back from the dead again and again and again. So, yeah. I mean, we were like 10, 11, 12 maybe.
No, that's a totally fine way to play. Like,
yeah.
No shame at all. Like, it's weird because there's these days there's a lot of conversations between like new school versus old school Dungeons and Dragons, and we've had conversations about it. But I feel like sometimes when you tell people that you're like playing it and your character dies and you go, oh, well, I'll just play the same character, and you go through the same dungeon, but now you're avoiding the trap that you technically don't know about. And they're like, well, that's not deep role playing, or, but it's still fun. Like, it's still a blast. Like, it's just weird that there's this like RPG purity test that everybody has a different bar for.
I think what we were really into was the collection aspect, getting items and food and spells and clothes and having your notebook fill up, kind of the way like kids like collect trains or anything, Pokemon cards. It was that
Pokemon cards.
Yeah, I mean that was the appeal. Was the getting things that you could never get in real life. That was what was cool. Like fire,
I have a question. When does the next book release?
So the next book should be out in fall of 2022, and it's called Sunny Makes a Splash. So
so far away.
I know these graphic novels take so long. So I finished the manuscript. Matt is drawing it, and I'm laying it out right now. I've laid out about 4 chapters.
Tell him he needs to hurry up.
Draw fast.
Come on, Matt. We don't have 2 years.
Draw faster, art monkey.
I know. Exactly.
And that's what he gets for not coming to talk to us. I'm going to haggle him.
Mom always told me she loved me more.
He was a baby. He got everything. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm the oldest.
Oh.
Yeah. So, okay, 2 years and Sunny makes a splash?
Sunny will make a splash, and she's going to be having her first job at the community pool at the country club. She accidentally kind of falls into a job at the snack bar. So it's a little bit of independence for Sunny.
Oh yeah, it's the 70s. I was like, she didn't get a job at a country club at that age.
Oh my gosh, it was a different time.
I was babysitting kids when I was 12. I worked at the snack bar at the pool when I was 13. I was lifeguarding when I was 16. I was working at the Gap when I was 15. Yeah. I mean, we all worked. It was just normal. It was fun and social too.
Well, that was how you didn't have social media to talk to people, but if you were at the snack bar, then you could talk to everybody that came to the pool.
Exactly.
So
it was
a social outlet too.
Yeah, it was great. It was just a different time. I know. I have very mixed feelings about social media. I think the one thing that it's preventing is allowing kids to be bored. And I think the best part of being bored is then your imagination goes wild. And that's kind of what D&D is in a weird way. It's like really allowing your imagination to envision something instead of having all the answers instantly on the internet.
Social media is like having a groovy meter in your pocket at all times.
You're so right. You're so right. Ouch.
Just
on your phone.
Yeah. Let me check my groovy meter. Oh, some likes. Ooh, feeling groovy.
It's so true. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really think whether or not you have kids at home, listeners, you should check out this book. It's just a cool representation of D&D in the 1970s with a lot of historical accuracy. I run, Jenny, kind convention games of D&D where I only use stuff from the 1970s or earlier. So I have a lot of those old miniatures, and I have the Holmes box set, and I run Holmes Basic D&D with all these old miniatures and stuff. So just that level of detail in the art is just wonderful to me. And I think our listeners will, whether or not they have kids at home, will really enjoy it.
I think if you liked Ethan Gildorf's Fantasy Freaks and Gaming Geeks, I think this would be right up your alley.
Nice. And get a copy of the original, you can find them on eBay still, and try that one out with your kids and see what they think. It might be fun, kind of a retro night.
Always recommend that.
Yeah. Yes. Play Holmes Basic with your kids. Play old school D&D. That's definitely our flag to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome.
You guys, thank you so much. This was so sweet. I really appreciate
thank you for being on the show.
Oh my goodness, no, it's really nice, especially.
Carl was nervous. He's like, I've never talked to somebody's publicist before. Which actually isn't true, Carl, because you had to talk to the publicist, I think, from the record company that handles Tripod's music.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, our theme song. We got permission from Tripod's publicist to use our theme song.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much. It was awesome to talk to you. Our kids are definitely jealous of us. They think Sunny Rolls the Dice is just awesome, and we'll have to get them the other books to read as well.
Sounds good. Well, you guys have a good night, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Do we have emails?
We do.
All right.
And okay. And we're still recording. So and Crispy, we have a dwarf voice. Oh man, I'm so excited. A dwarf voice. From episode 150, where we asked for maybe 149, where we asked for people's dwarf voices. Because we did class act dwarfs with you as a guest, Courtney, and then we did the Dwarves of Rockholm episode with you as a full-time cast member.
I got promoted.
Yeah. But a dwarf voice. I'm so excited.
Heck yeah.
Let's hear it.
Oi, my name is Angus Gravelgut. I'm a Durgar. Originally, I had a campaign that sadly fizzled after the first session. Also, I didn't know that I'd be hated by my surface dwellers, 'cause I'm genre blind after haven't played or read proper D&D in years. Oh well, I'll raise a tankard of the ale to you. And remember, you can't bring a troll to the fire, but you can bring a fire to the troll.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That was.
Anybody else want to do their dwarf voice now? No, I'm good.
I was doing a dwarf voice at a recent game. And I was like trying this new thing because we all know the Scottish dwarf, and I was just trying to do this kind of weird, unplaceable accent for my dwarf. And one of the other players called me out. It was at the homeschool group before the pandemic, and he said, "You kind of sound like Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb." I was like, "Oh no, I do." So I have like a Dr. Dwarfenshmirtz voice floating around somewhere.
That's really wonderful.
Well, that dwarf voice, not Dr. Doofenshmirtz, but that one was labeled Angus, and it's from GM Zach, and he also wrote us an email. And Courtney, if you would read that for us, that would be awesome.
To the triumvirate of Sod, I just wanted to thank you all for the awesome podcast. Your jokes, humor, and insights have been great companions to me over the past couple of weeks since I found the podcast. Life has been crazy for me lately, and being able to listen to y'all and past hosts have been a huge boon for my sanity. I did have a few things I thought would be worth writing in for besides my praise of the show. First, I want to say that I'm on Team Carl for episode 156. Should I just stop there?
No, keep reading. It gets better. It's great. Yeah.
It was a good joke, and you set Crispy up for a perfect transition on the fill in the blank dungeon.
More appreciation for my award-winning joke. Oh, yay. Awesome.
I don't even remember what that joke
Who
was.
think you are? Jenny Holm, Newberry Award-winning author. God.
All right. Second, the mystical stone mentioned on 156. I think Carl's joke about turning it into fudge sparked a thought process. Change the stone into a giant, obviously magical mushroom. If it's a food option, players are much more likely to take a piece off and cook with it, or try to put it into a potion. I also think Crispy's idea towards fudging the roll is a perfect hook for the next adventure and what happened to Rogon and Zeligar. The stone fungus does give you mystical powers or ability increases, but it also corrupts or poisons you. Maybe the reason that Rogon and Zeligar leave their tower and face the barbarian hordes is because they are either reaching the end of their days because of continued use, or in the lands held by the barbarians is a rare root that contains a powerful antitoxin and they went there in search of a cure. And now your players will too. Courtney's idea can also be worked in. Of course, a wizard would document his findings in a journal somewhere. The players can indeed find Zeligar's journal, and you can ask them how much time they spend reading it. A turn brings them the information that the stone/shroom gives amazing power. It is only after 3 or 4 turns worth of study that they get deeper into the book and find the entries describing the side effects.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention something about this because this was pointed out both in Facebook comments on the episode. The whole thing about putting the stone in your mouth is actually a rumor from the rumor table that is false. So we just kind of incorporated. We took our own approach and decided that was a true rumor, apparently, in our conversation. So things happen, but I just wanted to give ourselves a little correction there. But I do appreciate these ideas on it.
All right, GM Zach says number 3. To the subject of episode 157. It was a great episode, a lot of good information and discussion. Well, I don't think we end much further than we began on what codifies old school gaming or the OSR because of its diversity. It does bring an analogy to mind. Mom's chili. Everyone has had chili at some point, I hope, and every family makes it a bit different. Normally it's beans, meat, and peppers in some combination. No one really makes it quite like Mom or Grandma. Maybe some people use chicken, some beef. Sometimes it's super spicy, sometimes it's basically spaghetti sauce. Most people can point towards a general mix of what they like, but the exact measurements are always nebulous. We know it's meat, beans, and spice, but never quite sure of much of each Mom put in. In the end, everyone has their own flavor of old school, and unless you've been gaming with the same group most of your life, you will have different memories of what Mom's chili tasted like. So we all have variations of old school, and the only real goal should be finding the perfect mix for your current group. Do you want me to say the hashtag?
Yeah.
All right. Hashtag modern D ampersand D. I'm just kidding. Hashtag modern D&D. Hashtag just go play D&D.
That's Courtney's hashtag. He must be in your fan club.
It's not my hashtag.
Yeah, that's what you said at the end of the episode. He's shouting you out.
Is that really what I said?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Don't feel bad. I also barely remember what I say.
Well, GM Zach, you can be one of the members of the Courtney fan club. Number 4. Finally, I'm a big fan of having Courtney on the show. Hey, you can't be in Courtney's fan club. It's a great balance to have someone who is a player only give their feedback. As GMs, it's great insight into the minds of our players and reminds us that not everyone sees the story as we do. Though you aren't the loudest voice on the show, when you give your thoughts, they are spoken with a sense of open honesty that is refreshing. Thanks, Zach. Number 5. Y'all don't need to put this on the air. Oops.
Uh-oh, it's too late.
But I want to thank Crispy for being so excited about OSE. I sent in an order for a couple of the tomes after hearing his excitement for the system. I'm about the same age as you, but I didn't start playing RPGs until about 2014. and I've been trying to find a way to explore the roots of old school as I started with Pathfinder, #ForwardExplorer, and rather quickly moved away from D&D because I didn't like the fact that it was rules-heavy miniature wargame with role-playing tacked on in my mind. I've mostly played storytelling games in the recent years, but now I want to explore the more rules-light variants of the world's oldest RPG. So with Carl's enthusiasm for BX in general and Crispy's excitement for OSE, I'll probably be starting a local campaign using OSE as base as soon as COVID-19 blows over and my life can get to some sense of normal. I never really had an interest into old school until recently, but it's been a great discovery once I wrapped my head around it. Thanks again for all the effort all members put in, including editing. GM Zach.
No, it's nice. I know, I believe at least, that Zach is in our Discord.
He is.
And he's been talking about some of his like endeavors getting an old school game going that he's been trying to do.
So yeah, he had a post. I'm going to go ahead and shout out the post. He had a post recently on our Wild Game Productions Discord where he talked about introducing someone to basic D&D over the internet during the pandemic, someone new to the scene. It's just cool because it kind of proves what we've kind of said for a long time is this is not just nostalgia. There's really something about these old rule sets that's worth checking out. Because, I mean, obviously, he says he started playing in 2014. He doesn't have a lot of nostalgia for the 1980s of role-playing games, yeah, it's just awesome to see that. And
I've been running a home game with my two best friends who, like, one of them was vehemently against old-school D&D stuff. He just doesn't like it. And the other one, more receptive. But, like, they've been playing, and I think they've been having a lot of fun. And I'm trying to show them with Old School Essentials, actually. That's the rules tome that I gave them. That there is something here that is special. And it's been also a success.
Awesome.
I was going to say, thank you so much for the kind words. Like, I love Old School D&D, and I want everyone to play it. Even if it's Beck Me, Like...
I mean, Beckme's good. I don't know why there's... Oh, man.
What do you got against Beckme?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, just thanks so much, Zach, for the very kind email. It blows my mind that anybody listens to us. And it's just always nice to hear from listeners. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we love all the shout outs. Send us an email to questions@saveordie.info.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
We're also on Facebook.
Yeah, and Discord.
And my pocket groovy meter.
Yeah.
We do have another email.
Oh, we do.
We do. Courtney, do you want to read that one as well?
All right, so we have another email from Mike Stewart.
I feel like I know that name.
Sounds familiar.
It's a very common name. Hello, I see your viewpoints on the myth of old school exceptionalism, and for the most part, I tend to agree. 2 points, though. 1. I think it is weird that many OSR folks seem to be very absolute in what they will or won't play, and translating this into being true old school. Back in the early mid-1980s, we used to try most any RPG beyond AD&D. We liked some, didn't like others. But the idea of limiting ourselves to one game or just one playstyle was just weird. So, in my opinion, a lot of modern games get ignored by the old school community just because they are a modern RPG, which is a pity.
So, I feel like this is a great point because... Like, I remember trying GURPS, trying Vampire, just anything that anybody was, when you were a kid trying role-playing games and you saw, I had, if there was an RPG book that I found, I wanted it, even if I would never played it. I owned the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle role-playing game stuff as a kid.
I also owned the Teenage, because I saw it in a bookstore. I was like, what the heck is this? And I bought it. It was like $6.
Right.
I read it and I was like, yeah, I'm never going to run this, but this is interesting.
Yeah, it's just neat. Yeah, I mean, it's just I think maybe some of that charm has worn off because there is such a glut of options. So you're not really just like, you're not realistically going to have every single role-playing game. Unless you're one of those people that do that sort of thing. You guys exist. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. It's not something I will realistically do.
Right.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to comment on that first point before
I
we
want
moved
to
on.
talk about it a little bit as well.
Sure.
It's just one of the reasons I think this may be the case, because like I'm guilty of this. Whereas when I was younger, yeah, I bought like every weird role. Like I owned a copy of Harp for a little while, high accountant role playing, but but like high adventure role playing is the actual, but it's a D percentile system. Anyways,
Got it.
I think part of that has to do with the way that RPG books are written nowadays, because you can pick up, the Holmes Basic set, and the book is like, 50 pages or whatever it is. Whereas if you pick up a new RPG now, just the player's book is 500 pages. So I think as games got more complex and, production value went more and more, it's daunting to read a new book from scratch.
I do think there's also a trend in modern RPGs to not be written interestingly, which sounds pretty damning. But what I just mean is that they don't have that kind of like Gygaxian prose, and nobody's emulating that. And so it's kind of like, here's some system information, and it's a less of an interesting read. Where if you read some of the older RPGs and everybody was kind of figuring it out, a lot of times it's interesting to read it because of the way it was written, even if you never play the system.
Yeah. Like I picked up the Humble Bundle for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And God, every time I look at it, I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to read this book. It's 1 billion pages.
Well,
But I know that there's a lot of cool system information. But like, I don't know, like one of the great things about BX is that like it speaks to me. Not in like a metaphorical sense. I feel like the book is actually speaking to me. Like the author is telling me how to play the game.
it's a mimic.
Carl laughed. Crispy laughed. Courtney laughed. The Holmes Basic book laughed.
And then we fought it. All right. Number 2. Mike Stewart says, I think the
I know that
Number
name,
2.
though. Like,
Huh?
I just I can't place it.
It's very familiar.
Yeah.
Roll it around in your head. All right. Number 2. I think the old school community should be considered in light of 2 facts. In my experience, there are old school gamers who appreciate the rulings, not rules style of older games. There are also old school gamers who just want to return to 1985 when they were teenagers. For the latter group, anything post their rose-colored experience is new school and thus to be avoided. Personally, I'm not a fan of this, but it's a way of viewing RPGs in general and AD&D in particular. They want to be groovy.
Get both camps. Like, there's definitely a part of me, even today, where I was just like, man, I wish I was a teenager again and I could just, like, play Dungeons and Dragons for 8 hours at a time and not have to worry about anything else.
I do think there's something about playing old school games, specifically old school games, and there's nothing. I'm not trying to like throw the OSR under the bus, but I mean specifically books from 1985 or prior. I mean, it's just a snapshot of history. It's just an interesting, artifact. So I think some of it may be rose-colored glasses, but I think some of it also is possibly just like, this is just another component that we think is neat in the experience. When we play Discos and Dragons, at conventions, it is neat. It is neat to just have those old 70s miniatures on the game board. But it is also limiting. I mean, there's a lot of stuff available nowadays that, you wouldn't even have been able to find. Or, I mean, I have a 3D printer now. I can just print what I need for my games for a lot of my options that I would not be able to find in the 1970s miniatures. But it wouldn't be as neat to say, I'm going to play a game and I'm going to use a bunch of 3D printed components, as it is to say, I'm only using stuff from 1979 or earlier, and getting to see that stuff and what it looked like and what that experience might have been like.
You know what my favorite part of Discos and Dragons was?
No.
Because I'd never seen it in person before, was the outdoor survival game board.
Right, yeah.
Which
I mean,
I don't even know how I can find. I guess eBay, but
yeah, it's not too hard to find. It was a board game by Avalon Hill. There was a lot of them. Yeah.
But it was so cool. It's like, oh yeah, here's everyone's like, oh yeah, D&D is like a board game, kind of, and now we have the actual game board.
Yeah, to me, when it's all set out like that, and you're watching the overland travel, you set up your campaign map. It almost has a old school video game feel to it. You could feel like you can hear the sound effect, like wop, 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 wop.
Bananas. That's the sound your sword makes when it hits a monster. Sorry, I need a second to recover.
But I mean, I do think there's definitely some of that in the old school community, where it's like your new school is wrong because it's not what I played as a kid. And while I am forgiving of that attitude a little bit, because did D&D really need change so drastically? Not really. But I mean, there's stuff that you can still take from new D&D. I like Ascending Armor Class. I like Advantage. But I mean, there's a lot I don't like about new school stuff as well.
Yeah, when do I get to become a Duke? Tell me, Mike Merles, what level? Sorry. I do think that people are probably overwhelmingly in the first camp of people who appreciate the rulings not rule style, because Knave and the Black Hack and Index Card RPG have been super wildly successful. And they are really designed with that philosophy.
And I mean, if you look at almost every retro clone, barely any of them add complications. They almost all remove rules and simplify and try to create a more rulings not rules experience.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Stewart says, okay.
I can't place that name. It's just it's bothering me.
Keep thinking about it. Maybe it'll come to you. All right, make that 3 points. 3, despite the profusion of old school games and retro clones, virtually all of them changed some part of the original game to a greater or lesser extent. While possibly understandable from an authorial viewpoint, it supports the point you guys were mentioning about expectations and rules interpretation varying from table to table. Plus, nerds love to argue. Good job. Thank you.
He wrote
Mike
Victorious.
Stewart.
That's who that is.
No, Mike Stewart, 9-time world champion bodyboarder. Very famous. That's where it's from. That's where, because we're big, we're board heads.
We're big in the bodyboarding community.
Board heads is what they call us.
Our numbers, all the demographics, bodyboarders between the ages of 18 and 34 are just eating up our content.
I just remember when Mike Stewart won the Pipeline Body Surfing Classic 14. That was great. I think back on that sometimes.
That was when it was they were competing in ratings with the X Games, right?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I heard his wife is the most amazing person ever.
Thank you so much for the email, Mike.
I don't know. I remember in the comments from that episode on Facebook, Mike Stewart not being on board with my contemporary D&D naming schematic. So
you don't like him anymore? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, but thank you, Mike, for writing in. Do we want to talk any about the... I mean, like, that last point's pretty succinct.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we did it. We kind of just skipped over that. Yes, every single retroclone is different, just like we were talking about how every single gaming experience was different, and it just kind of goes to show that there is no right way to... No, wait, that's wrong. There is no...
You are going to get us sued.
There is no wrong way to eat a Reese's.
Can't say Reese's.
No, there is no wrong way to eat a peanut butter disc covered in chocolate.
Much better.
All right, well, I think that'll be our show for this week. We'll leave on that high note. Thank you so much to Jenny Holm for being on the show and sharing her time with us and talking about her book.
Yes, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was. And,
I'm serious, guys. I don't care if you're whatever. It doesn't matter who you are. Check it out. It's so cool. I mean, go to your library. Check out that book. It's neat.
Yeah. Again, Courtney had said it earlier, but if you have any questions, comments, concerns, hate mail, you can email us at questions@saveordie.info. And yeah,
What do you
thanks
mean
for listening.
hate mail? You don't get hate mail.
I mean,
You want to send your...
you can send
love
us hate mail. I don't care.
Send hate mail to Crispy and Carl. Send your happy emails to Courtney. Peace out, Cub Scout.
Stay tuned for the actual play after the messages.
Are you enjoying the show you're listening to right now? Great! Why not head over to patreon.com/WGP and support that show for as little as $1 a month. $1 a month goes a long way to helping support the network of Wild Games Productions. Again, that's patreon.com/WGP. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sunny. Middle school can be confusing. All my best friend Deb wants to talk about is boys, makeup, more boys, and being cool. Well, I'd rather be hanging out with my new friends playing Dungeons and Dragons. When I'm busy sword fighting and slaying spiders, it's hard not to worry about being cool. It's much more fun to just have fun.
Fitting in at school is hard, but standing out, Sunny is slaying it.
Hilda and Leothward and the Red Shields are standing in the streets of Manubria. They are visited by the apparition of Jan, now a spirit standing before them, making pleasant conversation. The citizens of Manubria seem to be passing them by, not worried about this apparition that is speaking to them. And Jan again says, "Are you doing okay?"
Leothward says, dumbfounded.
Yes. How are you?
I am dead. I died. I got bit by a snake and I died in the dungeon.
Yes, we were, I was there for that. It killed you real quick.
And
but how are you here?
Oh, I do not know. I am not sure. But I am here with you. And I can see you. And you can see me. And I think I have let you see me. But I have not let anybody else see me.
I'm gonna if I pass a hand through him, does it go through?
Yes, it does.
That's another thing I'm never doing again.
People around us seem to notice us talking.
Yeah, right now you just look like some weird crazies.
I'm alright with that. I asked Jan, can we go to your house to talk?
Yes, I do not mind.
Can you show us where it's at?
Yes, I can show you. Follow me.
As we're following Jan, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna walk next to Hilda. Hilda, how do we know that this is actually Jan's ghost and not like some wizard stuff? Like, what if this is actually Akamon? It's some kind of trick that he's playing on us.
Would Ackerman know where Jan lives?
I don't know. Maybe they're buddies. Maybe they went to the same church. What if this is a trap? And this is an illusion? Or it's Ackerman in disguise?
It's possible.
Or it's really a ghost. But how did the ghost get here? And why is it so friendly?
Did he know our names?
Yeah, but what if he was, like, resurrected and then indentured into servitude?
You're thinking too much about this.
He has not said your names yet.
Oh, he has not said our names.
Jan, my good friend.
Yes?
Do you remember the day we met?
Yes, I do remember.
Could you regale everyone with that tale?
Everyone here, they all know.
Yeah, but I always love hearing you tell that story. You do it so well. And trust me, I know about stories. I'm a bard.
Yes, I know. I know you. I owe you a story, but it's one you have not heard, and you were there.
Excuse us 1 second, Jan. Yeah, it's him. Jan, how are you here?
I don't know. I died, and then I am now here with you.
You didn't see a wizard or anything, did you?
Oh, I think I did.
Oh. What was the wizard doing?
He was mad. He was an angry wizard, not like Finian. Finian's just grumpy.
And then what did the mad wizard do?
He ran up some stairs.
Oh. So you saw the wizard after you had died?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, I think I was dead.
Did you speak to the wizard?
No. And I did not let him see me, like I let you see me.
This is shaping up to be a story I've never heard before. Jan, I've never met a ghost before.
Me neither.
This is freaking me out.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Real quick, I just want to test some stuff. I'm gonna reach into my backpack and get like a ration. Like, I don't know if I have like an apple or something.
Sure.
I'm gonna pull the apple out and toss it to Jan.
Okay. And
Does it just go right
goes
through him?
right through him. Apparently it
Is
tickles.
he able to catch it, or did he just like let it pass through him?
He didn't try to catch it. It just went through.
I'm gonna walk around him.
Sure.
And pick up the apple. I'm gonna go, Jan, heads up.
Yes? What do you want?
I'm gonna pantomime throwing it to him, but not actually throwing it to him, so he gets the idea.
Okay.
And then I toss it to him.
Okay. He reaches his hands out to catch the apple, and they fall through his hands, and he is unable to catch it. And he goes,
Thought we had like a ghost pal who could help us fight, but oh.
But he could scout for us?
Yeah, Jan.
Oh.
I'll wait till we get to Jan's house to test this one. I mean, what else could we?
He takes you to his house. You are now at Jan's house.
We're like outside. I don't want to go in yet.
Okay.
I want to see if Jan can walk through the walls.
What?
Yeah, you're dead. You're a ghost.
Yes, of
Things
course.
go through you. So
Exactly.
logically, you should be able to go through things.
I already have. That's how I got to you.
Oh. Could you demonstrate this ability to us?
I think so. Yes. He goes to the wall.
And then I'm going to enter his house through the door.
The door is locked.
Oh. Hey, Jan.
Yes.
Do you have like a spare key out here?
No.
Can you unlock the door?
No. I don't think
it goes through him.
Oh. Hey, Jan.
Mm-hmm.
Since you're dead and all, would you mind if I broke the door down?
You can, if you want, I guess.
Should we go to a back door? This seems like we would draw attention to ourselves.
Do you want to crawl through a window? I might be able. No, I can't. I don't have a window.
I'm gonna like go to the front door. It's locked, right? What does the door handle look like? Is it like a latch?
It's a very simple door handle. You could probably break it.
Well, what I was gonna do is I was gonna like slide a dagger through it and like through like where the door latches and see if I could just like pop it open.
Sure. With enough work and without too much damage, you're able to get inside the house.
Okay. Jan's in the house. We can see him.
Yeah.
Does he give off any kind of like spectral light or?
Sure. There's a little bit of light in here from Jan.
Okay.
You know what that means?
I don't.
It means light through yonder window.
What's Jan's house?
Did they say yonder in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, like I know the word yonder.
I mean, it's
Get it? Light through yawn?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Funny.
I mean, like, I could see how someone might interpret that as funny.
Okay. Simple house. Simple, pseudo medieval fantasy house. A little bit nicer than medieval people actually lived because it's fantasy medieval.
What do we do? Like, we've got Jan here, right?
All right.
Like,
you have an unexplored dungeon, a strange Jan ghost, a wizard that possibly is after you, and you are at Jan's house. What do you want to do?
Did you see anything after we left?
I saw the wizard. He was mad. He yelled curses. I felt like I had to get to you. I got to you, and then I figured out how to let you see me. And once I was able to do that, then I saw you, and you saw me, and I said hi. And then you said, can we go to your house? And now we're here.
What did you have to do for us to see you?
I had to think about it and concentrate.
Okay. Can you concentrate on holding this sword?
good idea, Hilda.
Or wait, maybe I just hand him a stick. We should start with something non.
I mean, it's not like he's gonna chop his toes off.
That's a good point. He might chop my toes off if it chops.
He is unable to hold anything you put in his hands.
Okay.
Wait a second, Jan. Mm-hmm. When you died, you had a sword on you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have, like, a ghost sword.
I do not think so.
Can you, like, see if you can apparate one?
I will try.
Can...
No sword. I don't know how to do it.
Can you communicate with us when we can't see you?
I don't know that I can make it to where you can't see me.
Oh. I guess I'm thinking of more of using Jan as a scout.
I do not know. I just know I am here with you.
Brother Bowen.
Yeah.
Do you have the ability to make holy water?
I can get some for us.
Okay. I have an idea. Also, isn't this freaking you out a little bit? Confirmation that there is indeed an afterlife?
Well,
oh, Jan. Why haven't you passed on? Like, why are you still here?
You raise an interesting point. I do not know that this confirms an afterlife, because I am still here. If anything, it only raises more questions about the nature of our existence.
I mean, I've never seen any ghosts. Hilda, have you ever seen a ghost before?
I have not ever seen a ghost. This is quite odd.
Wait a second. Both our dads are dead, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, Jan can come back from the dead to see my recital, but like... Guess I must not be that important. My brother always was the favorite.
What are you reciting?
When I was a young lad, I was a concert lutist, and my dad was always just out hanging out with his dwarf buddies, going on adventures.
Jan, would you be willing to go with us on our adventure?
I think I might have to. I don't know that I can leave you.
Oh. Okay, let's try that. Stay here. And then we walk outside.
Okay.
And then, like, let's go out of town.
All right. You start walking out of town, and eventually, about 40 feet behind you, you see the ghost of Jan traveling with you. Hello.
No, Jan, you're supposed to stay where you were.
I know. It did not work.
Oh.
I came with you.
Like, of your own volition?
I don't know. I think so.
Well, no, we need you to stay here.
I know that.
We'll come back for you. We're not leaving you.
I know.
We're just... Oh.
But I can't.
So that it... Jan, do you know what the word volition means?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You're a lot smarter than I initially thought.
I'm what now?
You're a lot smarter than I initially thought.
Sometimes, when someone has an accent, people unfairly question their intelligence.
That's true. Sometimes people think of me as a repository of information because of my accent. It hurts, you know. I've got more to offer than just an accent.
Cooper at this point says, I feel like we need a plan.
I think we should rest the night and let Jan keep watch. And...
Oh, I think I can. I don't
think go adventuring for this book of Xenopus.
I think I can do that. I don't think I have to sleep. I could watch. I guess I could just yell and wake you up, but I can't. Yeah. I can't wake you up by shaking you or nudging you.
But nobody, as far as we know, nobody else can hear you right now.
That is true.
So you can yell as loud as you want.
Interesting.
And we'll hear you, but nobody else will.
Hey, Jan, just a quick question. Did you come back as a ghost immediately, or was there some sort of downtime between death and afterlife?
It's hard to say. I did not notice any downtime. I did not remember anything except being bit by a snake and then seeing a wizard getting angry.
Well, no, then there definitely was a gap. An unaccounted for gap. Like, we went up a whole staircase and stole a book.
Oh.
There's... Can you remember anything immediately after you died?
So you just left me there?
Well, in our defense, we didn't loot your body.
I think you might have, actually.
Look.
Sorry.
We killed the snake. We got vengeance for you.
That is strange, because I thought maybe that's why I was back, for vengeance. But if it is dead, I don't know who I want vengeance on.
You know who might know a bit more about ghosts? That Phineas guy.
Yes, Finian?
Finian?
Well, maybe not. I don't know. Let's get some sleep.
Okay.
This whole, sudden realization of a metaphysical reality that exists beyond the veil of our canon understanding of reality is a little draining.
So, do we go back to our house? My house? Your house now? I don't know.
Yeah, we're not...
That's ultimately your decision, you know? Did you have a will?
No, it's not. He has to follow us.
Hilda. I mean, clearly he's still a sentient person. He just doesn't have a person.
Okay, so do what now? Go back to my house?
Yeah. I need a nap. This has been a lot.
Okay. You travel back to the house of Jan. And as you approach the house, you noticed outside the perimeter of the building stands a man. He is armored and has on some pretty nice finery. He's got chainmail armor on, and a sword hangs at his waist around a nice jeweled belt. And he seems to be peering around and inside Jan's house. And that's where we'll stop for this adventure, and we'll see you again on the next Save or Die.
The Save or Die podcast is a production of Wild Games Production, and it's produced for entertainment purposes only. The music used in the intro and outro is by Tripod and used with permission. Be sure to visit the Save or Die crew at saveordie.info for more information. If you'd like to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/WGP.